Hey, what's up? It's good to be back. Today we're gonna do tree and the cloud. So this video is me getting up to speed after a long period of time where I wasn't up to date with particle system in C4D and a lot of other things. So I'm just exploring and we are playing. So hopefully enjoy this video. This is really playful scene and it's just fun. Hey, welcome to this video. We're gonna start by finding that tree. I'm just gonna type in pine. I think this one's good. And now we need to kind of zoom out. So just Alt and right click the mouse button, zoom out. I'm gonna find the position where I see only tree trunk. So I'm using 4x5 here. And so something like this, maybe smaller. And so I have a tree, but it's inside this LOD object where we have different levels of detail. That's what stands for LOD. You can sort of switch between this proxy object and then full tree. And this is gonna make a difference when your scene gets very large or using a lot of trees. So in that case, you wanna switch to proxies. But we only have one tree here. So I'm just gonna reset our camera. And I'm actually gonna use my null to kind of do all the work, and then we can always fly around, reset the camera, and always end up here. I'm just gonna set up the background, and I have a plane that I can't see, but if I'm gonna lift it up a bit, I can change the -z direction so it's facing towards me, and actually press T as a scale and click and drag and scale it as much as I can, just so I cover the full viewport. And then I move it back with the Z, and I see I need to scale a bit more. So now I have that plane, which will serve me as a background, as a sky. And the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to create new material standard and drag it onto the plane. And then I have the emission going full blast. But first, I'm just going to get rid of the reflections and also get rid of the base. So I'm just going to use the emission only, show node editor. We're going to plug in some ramp. Now for the colors, we can play with it a bit. And I plug it into because it's the force of habit, I plug it into my diffuse. But if I click again and find the emission color, that's what I want actually. We can actually switch these colors, and we can have some like light pinkish and have a darkish tone on the top. It's quite bad, and then maybe have even like lighter color, like this is more like it. I can even desaturate this one, and this is it. Now I'm gonna bring in spotlight, and immediately when I introduce the first light, because emission doesn't count, you can see that I lost the scene light. So if this is off, I can no longer access it. So if I would delete this, so there's a light by default, just so you can see stuff. But once you introduce your first light, it will just disappear. I love this actually, the silhouette as the thing. So I'm gonna grab this and bring it up as everything with the trees. I'm gonna switch actually my coordinate system is currently the world, so it will always face this kind of 90 degrees angles, but we just wanna use actually the object coordinate system. I have a spotlight facing. If I increase it, you'll see I get this like a nice. So I actually like this position. This is quite good. So I'm just gonna save it. We will introduce bend deformer because we want the tree to be bendy. But when I was doing it in my previous scene, and I can show you actually, and one of the issues I had, you see the new leaves are spawning from the initial position where the tree was at the beginning. But I want the leaves keep spawning from the same places. Even if I bend the tree, 90 degrees, it should be spawning from there. But I did the mistake that I kept this object. It kind of protects that tree object from actually reacting as it should. So normally I would be able to use the bend deformer and it shouldn't affect. And I've tried with mesh emitter, and then I tried with matrix kata. That didn't work either. So to work around this, we're just gonna take this full tree out and delete this. And this will make it so that we will be able to affect this tree. Like even if I apply bend deformer now, so hold shift and click on bend object, and it will fit the parent, and I can bend it now. But I need to keep the length checked because otherwise it would stretch the tree too much. So let's say 20 degrees, it's enough. And I can spawn particles from the leaves. But first I need to isolate one. So let's say I have the bend, and then I want to take one leaf from the Scott pine, and you can say I'm going to go to polygon. There's a lot of these. It's like 1, 2. So I could grab this one, and I can right click those 2 polygons, and say split. So now I've created a new version of that tree. So if I'm gonna delete everything, this is what I have. Not bad. I need to using a sprite, so it should be working quite fast. What do you call these? Not a leaf. Yes. And called the tree back reset might come, and then I can look into actually having that tree different colors, so we can go and see into these materials how they are built, and I can see the diffuse is going here, and then there is the sprite that will determine actually the alpha, and it will cut the green color out of this, and so we are left only with the spikes. But we can affect the color by bringing color correct and changing the hue. We can also increase the contrast. We can increase the saturation scale, but I don't like any of these solutions. So another thing would be color composite, where we would take the color we like and we would blend it with the actual texture. So I'm gonna plug the diffuse into base color, plug it back in, and now I blend it with the color I want it to be. So it's orange, and then I average it, and that's much more like it. Now I'm gonna look into the other materials, and there is another one here, and I can color composite, and I'll kind of blend it with the dark green. Actually, let's first see what I'm affecting here, and I'm gonna average it. So I'm averaging these. These are much nicer. I would actually love to isolate these instead. Kind of love this bright. That's a lucky strike. Okay, that's another one. And I assume those are the last ones. Call for color composite again in base and color back to my diffuse. This diffuse will get mixed with something orange, but like darker. I don't know how to do dark orange here, probably. Okay, and I'm gonna average this. And we have a lot of options to just kind of play with it. We just kind of marry those two together. I would actually like to change the background just to something new, because we use different color scheme this time, so I'm pleased to see that. And we can do teal and orange, so I'm gonna do something tealish. Okay, so we have this orange and teal look. Maybe try to isolate another, not a leaf, not a particle. So we can go and have a look, and I can switch to click on my tree and have this one to be separated. So I'm gonna split and have a look. Are you joking? I've got another same one. Oh, it's different. Okay, that's good. At least they are different. So not a leaf too, and these are gonna be our particles. Now I have the tree, and I'll put it back. I'll sort of test the bend. So I'm just gonna click on that bend object and diamond keyframe for strength. I'll click on it, and then I'll go from 0 to like 40. 50. I just kind of bend it 24, something like that. And so it goes and it slowly bends. And turn off the IPR, and now it should come back. So if I would be taking this keyframe of the band, I could actually open up the F curve, highlight that keyframe, go to the end, and copy that, which didn't happen. So highlight that keyframe, Control C, Control V. Okay, but click and drag works. So it will bend, it will come back. And what can we do to make this even more kind of how it should be? We can hold Shift and just drag this handle a little bit onto the other side. That's not bad. Yeah. So now we have the bending tree, and I can bring in mesh emitter. So this is the mesh emitter here, and that will create particle group for me as well. And into that particle group, I can actually bring in Redshift object and bring in custom objects and drag there our node and leaf. So we have those, and the mesh emitter needs geometry to emit from. So I can select this Scott Pine. And now it should be working properly. It seems to be working. I'm gonna have to test this with actually introducing wind. So I'm gonna go simulate and bend. And with the bend, I'm just gonna bring it up just so we can see it. And I'm gonna rotate it the way the blue one is pointing. So that way is the wind direction. It doesn't matter where you place it. It really doesn't work that way, but just for demonstration. And I'm gonna increase the wind speed and turbulence. Not exactly looking like what I'm seeing in the viewport. So at this point in the tutorial, I wasn't actually aware these particles were on completely different axes. So they still kept the axis from the tree where we split them. So that's why the particles on our viewport, they look fine, but on our IPR, they're being displayed different place, like very top of that tree. And that means I just need to go and fix that axis. I'll do that later on. Let's carry on with the tutorial. We clean up a bit our scene, and then we introduce a gobo. I usually go with the gobo from I Go by Zach, and he created this awesome series of gobos that you can use, and they add texture to your lights. I just love it so much. And increase that pattern, so I can even have that I'll create like a null, bring it up, have it like here, and then have that light. We can create target tag and drag that null into it. Target, drag it into my lighting folder, and now we can move it to the side and maybe decrease that angle and really control, drag it down a bit. And I'm gonna see how the particles are doing. I'm gonna increase and bring in way more particles. So I still didn't solve why particles are displaying above the tree, and also I have a problem that particles are spawning from the stem. So there is a surface and we have a restriction here. We can use polygon restriction. So I can use polygon selection here. So if I highlight this tree, I can use this polygon selection tag. In the polygon selection tag, I can say use transfer and bring in linear field and bring it up. Introduce this selection to mesh emitter as a restriction. And then emitter shouldn't be spawning any particles from the tree trunk, which wouldn't make sense. And that really happened. Can't believe it. Okay, I see what's happening. Actually, this is purely my bad. When I created those particles out of the tree. They're sharing the axis, so they are being positioned with the axis on completely like weird locations. Because if I open up the particle group and maybe turn off the tree, the emitter, and reset it, you see those particles here. If I go to the object mode, you see that their axis is actually way off, and that's why being displayed in like weird positions. So all you need to do is to go to axis center and execute, and select the other one and execute. So axis all points to center. Now you have them all centered. Now center them to the center of the scene. We don't see it anyway. And I click on the make cam, reset, bringing back the tree, bringing mesh emitter, increase the wind again. So I finally figured out why the particles were displaying in a wrong place. So the axis center is really important, and the axis of the actual particle is important, just so we get the correct alignment with the actual particle representation in the viewport. How do I cache particles? So particles being cached within the particle group. So I didn't know that. I can cache object, and I have my data cache VDB and Alembex 3, not a leaf. So I'm caching that sim just so we can look at it more easily. I think the band is doing a lot of issues there. So just took about a minute or two, and you know, we're gonna slow down the wind here when we go away from this, but let's create the next thing. We need to kind of keep moving. So this is wind particle tree. So 3 would be my object, lighting, and this would be my particle system. Okay, so now we have the trees doing the thing, and now we need a cloud, because the video said 3 and a cloud, right? So I'm gonna try something weird, but I'm gonna start with landscape and bring it up again. We don't see anything here. And I'm gonna change it to spherical. I'm gonna squash it. And I'm gonna squash it on the Z as well. So I have this weird kind of blob. And then I'm gonna bring it here. And see, this could be my cloud. There could be another on here. Well, let's start with 1. So I can play with sea level. And I can play with the plateau. And with fine furrows. I kind of like this. Just kind of easy. And then I bring it into volume builder. So I press Alt, bring it into volume builder, it will disappear. And I'll change it to fog, and I'll change the voxel size to 2. I'm gonna bring standard material, open it up, and actually type in standard volume and plug it into volume. Now I have the volume builder here already, so I can plug it in, and we can apply this to our volume builder, and we can immediately see it's back as a fog volume. So now we need to play with the scatter scale, and we need to actually increase it way more, just so it reacts to. I'll increase the transparency here. I can see the volume builder. I can use fog smooth, and I can increase the iteration of voxel distance until I get just something that is almost like a mist. So you can do anisotrope here, so it's a reaction to the light. It's about 25 or maybe 12. Yeah, about 12. And decrease iteration. So as you can see, I've been fiddling with the vinyl values for that volume for quite a while, so I won't bother you with that. And instead of that, I'll just display what I came up with onto the screen. So it's playing with positions and different anisotropy and how the light reacts to that cloud and the density. But we will plug something different anyway. So a lot of these things will get affected by noise, which we're going to look at right now. So the next thing you can really introduce in here is, go and plug in noise. So let's say I want to make some noise and plug it into density. And now you see, I already can see what I'm doing. So I increase this by a lot. And I change this to maybe wavy turbulence. And you go to output, increase the contrast. You can kind of get, different results by just playing with this. So yesterday I was working on it and I kind of did a couple things, jiggle, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, we could do better. When I render it, I saw it's too many, leaves going on there, too many particles. So we will go and reduce it. We will also introduce noise for a cloud just so it's moving a little bit. And this will make it immediately better, because that like tree wouldn't be spawning particles like non-stop, right? So I have the cached version here. Yeah, so I'm going to clear object cache and I need to fix the particles. I'm going to also remove the jiggle. I don't think it did anything, so I'm just going to empty cache, delete jiggle. And we're going to do thing that I want more particle spawn here from like 25th frame. So it's going to go mesh emitter, and I'm going to go to rate here and change it to like just 50, right? Just so the leaf spawning and then the rate increases as the wind gets stronger. So you can pause it. You can see how it's look like. So next thing, we go into mesh emitter and properties, and we're gonna increase our angular velocity, and we also gonna bring in simulation modifiers. We're gonna bring in spin. So you're gonna have a spin of 270, and I can look at my leaves if they are like, yeah, this looks much better, because they were all facing the same way before, so this looks more natural to me. And we can cache this. The one last thing I want to try is to add a little bit of rotation, just so I'm going to highlight the 3 and bring in shift, pressing twist, so fit to parent, and then we can do little rotation like this. That will be just about here, and then I press keyframe, go to the initial state and press 0, go at the end and press 0 again, confirm the keyframe. So if I look at my F curves, I can turn off the mesh emitter, so highlight only the angle, click on the F curve, a little bit tilted, so I can turn on the mesh emitter, go into my particle group, cache, and I'll cache object. Okay, so this is cache, so we have 1 leaf, 3 leaves. Yeah, that's way better. And because of the rotation, we can also like see some of the kind of movement within that main part leaf. So I think it looks better. Another thing that we can do, just so the cloud is not static, we can go into that cloud and we can animate a slight movement there. So you remember we use max and noise, so I can go into that noise and increase the animation speed. So to like 0.2. And if you want to check your noise, then it's always a good idea to just kind of bring in. Here I take it into the next scene because like the scene with tree is a bit heavy. So I'm just going to take it into free scene. And we can see like 0.2 value I added is quite good. It's just going to give that subtle movement. We can increase it more if we want to like 0.2.5. And I think that's plenty movement for us. So now that it's tested, I kind of know that I'm going to get movement that I want. I can go back to 0.25 and I'm happy to render. I have a cloud, I have a tree, and I have leaves. Thank you so much for watching, and let's render. For my render settings, I can actually go into and look. I can increase to 0.01. We can even take a photo of this. Go to GPT. So now I'm Redshift Render Assistant by Chad Ashley. I'll just bring it there. How to improve my render time here. So if you're just starting with Redshift, like me, I like to, import these. You have a trace depth at 6, transparency at 3. These values directly impact render time since they increase the number of rays. So just lower the level of depth to 3 to 4 and reduce transparency to 2 unless reflection depth. Okay, so that's how it's called, like reflection depth. He's calling it to 3 to 4. We have it reflection trace depth at 6. A scene includes a volumetric particle blaze effect like scattered leaf hair. Rendering often increases render times. Try enabling automatic threshold under hair settings to optimize. So it offered me a couple tips that I can use to improve my render time. So it guesses a lot of things. Like the more it knows, the better it is. Like if we would use denoiser, like we could use on a scene like this, we could quite use denoise. We don't have AOVs on, right? We have disabled. We don't need AOVs. I'm gonna render 1 frame. See how long it takes. This is 30 seconds. If I put 0.3, immediately 18 seconds. 0.05. Still looks good. 15 seconds. So it's a half time of what it was. So all these things can matter when you render like a lot of different renders and you need every second. Overnight you can render like multiple renders and 15 seconds per frame. It's quite good. It can be minute, it can be even 10 seconds, but it's still better for you, for your machine. You can render more. So okay, let's say this is good. I'm gonna render this now.